Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT07, and BT07 offers us some new and exciting cards to be playing with to upgrade some old decks. And one of my favorite decks that was really strong in BT05 is going to be a Garurumon tribal deck. And the Garurumon tribal deck, even though it didn't get that many new parts and pieces, I think in this current environment it actually has a place to be able to survive and thrive, just because the new pieces that it did get could be used in some very powerful ways, depending on how you want to build the deck. So ordinarily, this is going to be a relatively fast and aggressive deck that just wants to do what Garurumon likes to do and is multi-attacking and swinging for a lot of damage while drawing a lot of cards all at the same time. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tsunomon. So this is the BT05 Tsunomon, and because we have so much card draw innate into the deck, we don't necessarily need to have the card draw in the Digitama slot, and we actually want to try to DP boost to make our Digimon as strong as we possibly can. So Tsunomon is perfect at doing that, just because he is allowing us to get plus 1000 DP with his inheritable ability, as long as he's underneath a Garurumon or an Omnimon. And then as far as the 5th Digitama, you don't necessarily have to run one, but if you do want to run one, then I would recommend using Demivemon here, just because it's another DP boost that has a very easy condition for us to fulfill, with us literally just having 8 or more cards in our hand, which isn't hard because we have lots of different ways to be able to draw cards in the deck. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the BT01 version of Gabumon, and this card is in here just because he replaces himself with his on-play ability of being able to draw a card, allowing us to easily play a card and start filtering and cycling through our deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the BT05 version of Gabumon, and this is going to be the deck's dedicated digger. So he's digging for Omnimons and Garurumons with his on-play ability to be able to check the top 3 and then add a Garurumon and an Omnimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. Again, just trying to dig out and find our parts and pieces, so that way we could try to make more powerful and more consistent plays. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gabumon. So this is the Classic Collection version of Gabumon, and this Gabumon is, again, another card that's helping us dig out our parts and pieces. So he has this nice when attacking ability that's letting us look at the top of 3 cards of our deck and adding a Tamer and a Digimon with Gabumon in its name from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So he's looking for our other Gabumons, which is mostly going to be our rookies, and he's also looking for our Tamers, which we definitely want to find Nokia to be able to make more powerful and consistent plays with. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Gabumon. So this is the starter deck version of Gabumon coming from the All-Force starter deck, and this is just another DP booster to ensure that our Digimon are going to be as strong as they possibly can, except what he's doing is he has an inheritable ability that happens during all turns, where as long as we have 8 or more cards in our hands, then this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP, so it's making our Digimon not only stronger during our turn, but the opponent's turn as well. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Garurumon. So this is the BT05 version of Garurumon, and this Garurumon is really good on tempo, just because his when Digivolving ability lets us gain a memory, as long as we Digivolve them on top of a Gabumon, which all of our rookies are Gabumons, so this is going to be online almost all of the time. And then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability that's doing something very similar to what we just saw with the starter deck Gabumon, where it's an all turns ability. We get a gain plus 1000 DP as long as this Digimon is either an Omnimon or a Garurumon. So that's just very, very powerful because, again, it's just more instances of DP boosting, allowing our Digimon to have a higher chance of survival. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Garurumon. So this is the promo Garurumon, and this Garurumon is helping us draw some cards with his inheritable ability of when attacking, if this Digimon has Garurumon in its name, then we get to draw 1 card. The crazy thing about this is it's not limited to once per turn, so if your Digimon could attack multiple times, then you could trigger this ability multiple times to draw a lot of cards in a single turn. And we definitely want to have a high hand count because, well, some of our abilities are triggering based off of us having lots of cards in our hand. On top of the fact that just drawing a lot is really, really good, because we could use this in the mid stages of the game to try to help see more of our parts and pieces. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Lobomon. So this is the promo Lobomon, and this is, for all intents and purposes, a flex spot of the deck. It doesn't necessarily have to be the promo Lobomon, but based on how I built the deck, because I do want to use AncientGarurumon, because I think that card is really strong, and having the warp just makes the deck faster. That's the only reason why I'm using the Lobomon, is because it just makes us playing AncientGarurumon a lot easier. And we want to use AncientGarurumon because, well, he's still a Garurumon after all. But what this card is doing is his when Digivolving ability speeds up the deck, allowing us to warp into our AncientGarurumon if we have it, where when we Digivolve into him, then we get to Digivolve immediately into an AncientGarurumon from our hand for only 1. And then we get to ignore the rest of the Digivolution requirements, but unfortunately the Digimon does have to get deleted at the end of the turn, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because of the on-delete ability on AncientGarurumon. And even though it's not the most useful in this kind of a deck, the fact that we still have Lobomon to help combo with it is still really, really nice. And then on top of that, he also has a nice inheritable ability in case you want to go the slow route, where during your turn, when this Digimon Digivolves into AncientGarurumon from our hand, then we get to reduce its Digivolution cost by 2, again, making it easier to go up into our AncientGarurumon, and we can make a very powerful AncientGarurumon stack using this card. Next, onto our ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Weregarurumon Sagittarius mode. So Weregarurumon Sagittarius mode is kind of acting like a pseudo-mega, so if we don't have a mega, then we're not necessarily afraid to use this card because of the different ways that we could use this card. So we could use him as just a normal level 5 when we Digivolve up into him, just because we could evo him on top of a level 4 for no real loss of tempo, or we could even Digivolve him on top of a level 5 to be able to take advantage of our level 5's inheritable abilities. So he has his own inheritable ability that's just DP boosting, similar to how we saw BT5-Garurumon's ability work, where during all turns, while this Digimon has Garurumon or Omnimon in its name, then it gets plus 1000 DP, so it's just making whatever we're using on top of him, including himself, a little bit stronger. And we actually can and want to use this card aggressively, just because his native ability states that during our turn, while this Digimon has a Weregarurumon in its name in its Digivolution source, then it gains the jamming ability, so that way we have very safe ways to swing and aggress into the opponent's security, thanks to this card. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Weregarurumon. So this is the promo Weregarurumon, and this card is absolutely insane for how this deck wants to be played, and one of the best level 5s, if not the best level 5 that we have access to. So what this card is doing is he has a native ability to be relatively aggressive, because he has this when attacking ability once per turn. If this Digimon has a Garurumon in its Digivolution source, then we get to unsuspend this card, so just this card alone could multi-swing, and that's already making him very, very strong, especially since we have multiple different ways to DP boost him, and considering the opponent's security is going to be relatively weaker thanks to hybrid meta, then it just makes his swings even safer than they were before, allowing us to aggress even easier. And he even has some nice combo potential with some of our other cards to help us draw multiple cards in a single turn, thanks to his multi-attacking ability. And then on top of that, the even crazier part of this card, and the primary reason why we want to use him, is because he has this nice inheritable ability that states that during our turn, while we have 8 or more cards in our hand, which is not hard to fulfill because of how much card draw there is in the deck, then this Digimon gains security attack +1, so that way whatever mega we're using can hit for a lot of damage, especially if we can swing multiple times with them. Next, onto the megas, I'm going to be running 3 copies of AncientGarurumon. So AncientGarurumon is the powerhouse backbone on how this deck wants to try to win, just because we have the promo Lobomon to cheaply go into him, and we could even use the promo Lobomon to warp Digivolve into him to get some surprise attacks in relatively easily. But what we want to use this card for is his primary ability to be able to multi-swing, not only just with him, but allowing another Digimon to get an additional swing as well for just lots of consistent damage. So his when attacking ability states that once per turn, we get to unsuspend 2 of our Digimon with Garurumon in its name or hybrid in its form. So the only unfortunate thing about this is the second he does swing, you do have to trigger this ability. At worst, he's always going to be unsuspending himself, but at best, you get to unsuspend another Digimon for extra attacks, and that's just what's making him so powerful, is just the various addition to the aggression that we have available. And then he has an on-delete ability that we're not really trying to take advantage of, but it's nice when it goes off, and you could build a little bit more around the ability, where on delete, we get to play a blue level 4 or lower Digimon with hybrid in its form from our hand without paying its memory cost. So he does have some sort of reward for when he dies. In this version of the deck, you could play another Lobomon from your hand and then start digivolving on top of that Lobomon to try to make replaying another Ancient relatively cheap. So this is just a very powerful card, taking advantage of what a lot of this deck has to offer, especially if we pair him up with some extra DP boosts to ensure that he's going to live through the opponent's security. And on top of the fact that we could give him security tech +1 to be able to have him swing for a lot of security checks all in one turn. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of MetalGarurumon. So this is the promo MetalGarurumon that actually comes inside of the booster boxes of BT07 as a campaign rare. And this card is actually a pretty solid card and definitely an underrated card, especially in how this deck wants to play. So what this card is doing is he has a nice when digivolving ability, where if we have a tamer in play, then we get to draw 2 cards. So when we digivolve up into him, we essentially get to draw 3 cards because 1 from the digivolution bonus and 2 from his ability. So that's just a lot of cards that we're seeing all at once. Then on top of that, he has another ability, which actually is very, very underrated, especially on how this deck wants to play, where during the opponent's turn, this Digimon can't be attacked. So the only way to actually get rid of this card is if he either dies in the security check, which we have lots of ways to DP boost him to try to help him live through those security checks. And then on top of that, they have to have a removal card to be able to get rid of this card. Otherwise, he's just going to sit on the field and consistently poke at the opponent's security. And then the last Digimon of the deck and only level 7 of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Omnimon. So this is the BT05 Omnimon, and this card is just the game finisher for the deck. So he has this nice when digivolving ability to unsuspend himself and gain the Blitz ability. So that way we could try to swing out with our level 6s, deal as much damage as we possibly can, then digivolve into Omnimon, unsuspend, and swing with Blitz for game. That's the primary goal and intention on how we want to use this card, but he also does have an upside in case we do want to try to use him as a consistent point of pressure, just because his ability to protect himself is really solid, where during all turns, if an opponent's effect would delete this Digimon or return it to our hand or deck, then we get to prevent it from leaving the field by trashing a level 6 from its Digivolution source. So if we know that the opponent has the ability to remove one of our Garurumons and we necessarily can't win the game, then we could use that protection ability to Digivolve on top of one of our Garurumons for some extra card draw because of Digivolution, and to try to have an even stronger body for them to be dealing with on the crackback. Next, on to the options. I'm going to be running 1 copy of Ice Ball because, well, we're only allowed to run 1 copy because this card is that good. So for the low cost of 1 memory, we get to have the ability where we get to try to shut off some of the opponent's aggression, where all of their Digimon gain the ability of, when attacking, losing 2 memory until the end of their next turn. So this just tries to tax the opponent's attacks for each of their Digimon coming out of anywhere, so it's just a really good defensive card to use to try to stall out, so that way we could try to win the following turn with, and it has a nice security ability where we get to gain 2 memory, so at worst, it's just a Hammer Spark in security. And speaking of Hammer Spark, next as the only other option, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Hammer Spark because, well, sometimes we do just need that instant tempo. So for the low cost of 0 memory, we get to gain 1 memory, so we are gaining 1 memory with this card to be able to make more powerful follow-up plays with. Then its security ability is the exact same as what we just saw with Ice Ball, where we get to gain 2 memory, effectively trying to take away 2 memory from the opponent during their turn when it's checked, to be an absolute nuisance of a card for the opponent to be dealing with when they see it. Then lastly, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Davis because, well, you're not playing a good blue deck unless you're playing Davis. Now, I do note that Davis is a little bit more of an expensive card, but he's an expensive card because he's just that good of a card. So at the start of our turn, if we have 2 memory or less, then he'll just set us to 3, acting as the memory fixing tamer so we can make our plays as consistent as we possibly can. Then on top of that, he even helps with the deck's overall consistency with his on-play ability to look at the top 3 cards of our deck, add a blue and a green Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So we're not playing any green Digimon, so he's always going to be looking for a blue Digimon, which this deck is full of, so he's just helping us find our parts and pieces, so that way we could make our combo plays possible. And then the last tamer of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Nokia. So you could build the deck without Nokia, it's just with Nokia, she has her own sets of synergy that we could really take advantage of. So her on-play ability lets us play a Agumon or Gabumon from our hand for free, so literally just getting her on the field allows us to help play some of our Digimon, and we have really good Gabumons to take advantage of this ability because our Gabumons have some really good on-play abilities themselves. So we could hard play Nokia to hard play a Gabumon for free to be able to use that Gabumon's on-play ability to help dig out some of our other cards or do various other things depending on how you build the deck. Then on top of that, she also has a really good main ability to help make our Digivolutions cheaper, to make our deck more efficient, where when one of our Digimon digivolves into a Digimon with a Garurumon, Omnimon, or Greymon in its name from our hand, then we get to suspend this tamer to reduce the memory cost of that Digivolution by 1, so it allows us to easily climb our stages with to make very powerful plays possible. And then there's still just a lot of flexibility and customization in the deck in terms of what you want to play and how you want to play it, just because these sub-packages can help influence how the rest of the deck is going to be built. So if you wanted to, you could think about incorporating the Bond package as a potential package to play, just because we do have Matt that's already interacting with our Gabumons and Garurumons, which is the majority of the deck, allowing us to gain some additional resources when we move them out of raising, on top of the fact that he does give us that warp potential to warp into a bond of friendship using any of our Gabumon. Then, if you wanted to, you could think about incorporating BT01 MetalGarurumon, just because in BT07 we did get some support for splitting apart our inheritable sources, and, well, that's what this MetalGarurumon is playing around with. So you could think about incorporating cards like Kaiser Nail or Tidal Wave to be able to split our inheritable sources with, on top of the fact that we did get a really good Weregarurumon that we do want to try to split, just because he does have a good on-play ability to either help us play our tamers or gain some additional memory for having a tamer already in play, while gaining us some additional memory when we unsuspend our Digimon for those multi-swing potentials, which we could actually do with the BT01 Garurumon. And then we still just have lots of really solid generic cards that we could think about incorporating into the deck. So you could run a Syakomon or Madoki Maidamon or both, just to act as some really good floodgates and anti-meta cards to stop and limit some of the opponent's actions. Then we do have other really solid Gabumons that we could think about using. Then if we are thinking about playing a little bit more into the hybrids and attacking the opponent's inheritables isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, we could just run the Tommy package and some more hybrids, just because, well, the hybrids are really good, and the Tommy package is also a very powerful package at removing the opponent's inheritable sources while trying to stunlock the opponent's Digimon to make him have the ability to not really do much, and because we have the Ancient that we could play off of, that's just another direction that we could take the deck in. Then if you do want to play a little bit more into the Bond package, we also have some really good cards to help play our mats even easier, with the Garurumon that's just letting us play a mat Ishida that has a play cost of 3 or less, which is the BT06 mat or the starter deck mat, for free. So it's just more easy value and a solid Garurumon to use for the deck depending on how you build it, but you don't necessarily have to incorporate all Garurumons. Even though, yes, the theme is kind of Garurumon tribal, sometimes you do just need some cards to shore up its weakness, and the deck doesn't really have a lot of control in the deck, so you could play something like Vitramon from the All-4 starter deck to try to use the fact that we're drawing lots of cards to bounce the opponent's lower level Digimon back to their hand to get rid of those pesky rookies. Then we do have some really solid other level 6s that we could think about using. So if you really wanted to, you could use Zeed just to try to add some extra control into the deck, or you could try to use MetalGarurumon from the Classic Collection for some control against the opponent's on-delete abilities. And this card's really good because he makes himself cheaper, just because he'll gain a memory for every 4 cards in our hand, which we could have lots of cards in our hand, making him a very easy MetalGarurumon to go all the way up into. Then if you do like that multi-attack potential and you just want an easy way to multi-attack because we're already running lots of DP boosts, we could actually try to take advantage of the starter deck MetalGarurumon just because he is a solid card to just multi-attack with in general, and we have easy ways to reduce his evolution cost or make evolving into him relatively easy just because of how the deck wants to flow and function thanks to Nokia. Then we do have some other Omnimons that we could think about running, so we could run Omnimon X Antibody for Omnimon X Antibody shenanigans, and we could even run the BT01 Omnimon just because we could multi-swing with this card and use him as another solid control tool for the deck to possibly think about. But if you do just want some easier forms of control against those pesky rookies, then we could run some boost spells like Forbidden Trident to gain the ability to not only increase our DP, ensuring that our Digimon are going to have a higher chance of survival on various stages, but we also could use this to bounce those rookies back to the hand. So this is a really good card to play in combination with something like the promo Weregarurumon, ensuring that he's going to have the highest chance of success while having the ability to multi-swing as a level 5 Digimon. Then we do have various memory boosts that we could play, so we could use Blue Memory Boost to help with the deck's overall consistency and the delay to gain some instant memory at a later turn, and we even have Howling Memory Boost to double down on the fact that we could try to attack the opponent's inheritables and stunlock their Digimon, while again gaining some additional memory at a later turn. But we do have various other removal options that we could run to try to shore up whatever weakness we're noticing in the deck if we want to run any options to remove the opponent's Digimon at all. So we have Supreme Cannon to try to bounce low-level Digimon back to the opponent's hand. We have Cocytus Breath to try to just generically bounce one. We have Rattlestar. We have just a lot of different bounce effects to take advantage of. And then we do have various other tamers that we could think about incorporating into the deck. So if Davis is a little bit out of your budget, then you could double down on Matt Ishida to be your memory-fixing tamer and to try to attack the opponent's inheritable sources as well when we're trying to take advantage of cards like Nokia. So there's just a lot of different potential that this deck has, depending on the types of cards that you're using and the sub-packages you want to incorporate to make for a very fun and flexible deck. But for the most part, this is just my core or shell idea on how Garurumon Tribal wants to be played in BT07, just because I think going all the way up all the time is a little bit too slow, and even though we do have cards like Nokia to help us move that along, we're putting ourselves at risk on a lot of the opponent's powerful hybrid plays, so we're trying to reduce some of those potential crackbacks and punishments that the opponent can do with warp potential and cards that make it very hard for the opponent to interact with. But I think this is going to be a very fun and interesting deck to be playing around with nonetheless. Is it going to be super tier 1 hyper meta competitive? Probably not. Right now it's probably along the lines of a more casual deck to play, but it's still a very fun and powerful casual deck that could really surprise the opponent with the amount of pressure and potential it has. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.